Welcome back. We are live with the final episode 8 of our season 18. Good to be with you. We'll take about a month off after this, so hopefully you enjoy this final segment for the season. Myself, Dan Fellers, we've got Camille Parks and Ali Alosa, and welcome Marcus Garrett joining us today. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, we'll learn more about Marcus and what he's got going on later on the show. I'll walk us through what we're going to be talking about. We will run through all the communities and around the bases and keep you up to date on everything new. Then we'll talk about our sponsor, On2Air Backups. Then we will learn about Marcus and how he came into this Airtable environment and what he's got going on and all things Marcus. Then he's going to showcase an application using AI for applicant tracking. And then we'll talk about how to join our community. And then we'll finally end with an audience question that Ali is going to answer for us. Okay, with that, we'll start with round the bases. Let's see, in the Airtable community, they talked about some new project management features added. I believe we already talked through most of these, but they finally posted on their community. So advanced date dependencies, that's been around a while, right? That's what we talked about. Grid lines, that's been there a while, right? Or is that new?
I haven't noticed because it's more a visual thing. It's not really a feature necessarily, so I couldn't tell you when this was added.
Yeah. You can now more easily discern between dates and add a grid line. So is that just these connectors?
Well, that would be
dependency. Lines.
Yeah, I think it's the vertical lines.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, so I guess I didn't have those before. All right, what else we got? Group different fields together to quickly see what works in the horizon. So this is within the timeline view.
Wait, what?
Yeah, this has been doable for a long time. I'm not sure if there's something different about it.
Can you click the image?
I think it's the grouping within the within the groups.
So double grouping.
Well, I feel like you could have had nested groups. What I think is happening is, you know how up at the top where it says web engineering, that solidified single thing with items underneath it, previously with the timeline group, timeline view, grouping each individual record was its own, but there was no like totality thing for the entire group. There used to be one, well, there is one on Gantt, but there wasn't one on timeline. So that's what was added, which is very useful. I was asking for that feature for a while.
Gotcha. So it's referring to kind of this visual.
Yes. So when you group by something, you could see they do it for the second group level as well for web design and SEO. And it's nice that it's color coded to, I mean, if you have a tag or a select option, that it's color coded to the whatever it's being grouped by. So yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a nice. Okay, I think that's it. So definitely project management improvements on the what's new. There was a couple. Let's see, organized discussions with threaded record comments. I believe we've already seen this.
Yes.
Just making the making it to their page. So basically you can generate threads within the comments.
And also react to them. So giving them a thumbs up or a heart or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's one more. Customize labels directly on the canvas. So by default, elements and record details use the name of the underlying field as a label, now a custom label. I believe we talked about this as well.
Yes, this was something that I can't remember which types of interface pages you could have done this on, but it's useful to not have to go to the right side panel to edit every single one.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So it's got the inline editing right there.
Nice.
Okay. So maybe some of these are maybe catching up. We know we catch stuff before it shows up on the what's new page. So looks like some catch up here on things. So that is, I believe, all the feature announcements. I didn't see any new ones captured from any audience. So we'll move on. If you'd like to know about new third-party tools coming out, here's one from a Chris Bine, just kind of sharing what he's working on. So email, if you like email inside of Airtable and need to maybe do more emailing directly inside of Airtable, it looks like mailtable.co is coming. Email for Airtable.
I like the description of email thing for Airtable people.
Yeah.
Don't overpromise, don't undersell.
Yep. So if you want to get on his waiting list, you can join there. Next one. This is today in a couple hours. So if you want to up your interface game of building apps using interfaces, Airtable's doing a workshop or a webinar. So this is the second in a two-part series for advanced app building tips. We'll see if they do anything more advanced than what we've done on our show, but definitely worth catching up there. Okay, here's a good one from Max, friend of the show. He's been on. Airtable is a software development language disguised as a project management tool, hence the debate, and gives a bunch of people comparing Airtable to Monday.com. So a software development language disguised as a project management tool. Agree or disagree?
I agree that it's something described as disguised as a project management tool. Like the very first thing we showed for Around the Bases was they're improving their features that are relevant to project management. But it does other stuff, or it can do other stuff. It really depends on what you want to build. A software development language gives me pause. I wouldn't describe it as a language.
Yeah, maybe platform.
Yeah. I would agree with the software development platform. Once you have automations in there and a front end and interface designer, I think you could reasonably call it a software development platform.
Yep.
I also think that that project management is probably perhaps Airtable's weakest area. So, even just that part feels inaccurate too. Yeah.
But it's interesting, they're investing in that to try to beef up their project management. So we'll see how far away it is to compete with some of these out of the box tools.
Absolutely.
Okay, one more. All right, see who can make sense of this. So I love that I can put system prompts in Airtable and have a formula column that makes a JSON-friendly version to be used in no-code tools. Who can explain this formula?
You know what? I actually can't because it's replacing new line with the regex equivalent of new line, I think. But I think I could be wrong. I feel like Airtable's regex formulas permit the single slash, but I don't know. Maybe it requires the double slash. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, it kind of doesn't make sense to me. I would love to see what the output is.
Yeah, what's system prompt? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's true. I don't think there's any commentary. So yeah, system prompt. I'm assuming it's a multi-line.
Yeah.
And he's basically.
The last line is escaping quotations, and that's all I can tell you.
Yeah. So yeah, but /R is, I think, only Windows for a new line. /R/N, those are both kind of new line. So just replacing both of those with new line. But I think it's putting it into JSON format. And so I think what he's doing is basically, if there's a real new line, he's making it basically putting everything into one line. Because I know, like with JSON, it needs to be one consecutive. You can't have real line breaks inside of quotations. So maybe that's what's going on.
Oh, that is what's happening. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah. So it's not a full JSON. I think it's like just the text element of a JSON. So, because this actually a lot of times I'm working with JSON even for this podcast, and I'll copy like a bio, and if it has line breaks, I have to manually delete them, so it's all on one line to go in the JSON valid.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next one. Okay, exciting news. Today I'm releasing a new program. This is from LinkedIn from Nicholas Ferguson called RAU, Rust Airtable Utility. Straightforward application allows you to use Airtable from the command line, specifically built for Fluent CLI, which I've never heard of, but CLI stands for Command Line Interface. But it's also a great standalone application. The combined power and simplicity of RAU and Fluent CLI are unparalleled in any other current offering. Check it out and simplify your workflow today. So this is probably for the developer nerds amongst us. If you're on the command line and you want to communicate with your Airtable base, here is a command line tool. So it'd be interesting. Maybe I'll check it out. But yeah, I'm not familiar with I haven't used Rust much at all or Fluent CLI.
I live my life in such a way that I can avoid the command line unless I really have to go there.
Yeah, that's probably fair. It's probably good. Okay, we've got some more here. I'm going to skip from friend of the show, Jen Rudd, just showcasing, just casually getting a photograph with Howie Liu, CEO of Airtable. And apparently there was some shindig at Airtable offices. And I think it was AI related. Actually, I know it was, AI Accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually I attended. They did one in New York the week before, and I was at that one. I didn't make the San Francisco one.
I was at this one.
Yep.
And I was able to meet Jen too. And
Nice.
yeah, she's a gem, and
She
I'm
is.
glad I'm finally getting to meet a lot of the folks that I've been talking to in the BuiltOnAir community.
Yep.
We're real.
You're all real.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think Cherry was there too.
Yep. Yeah, Cherry was there as well. Yep. The others, very good. Okay, a few more from the BuiltOnAir community in line with that one. Do you use Airtable AI? Also from Max, and he goes first and says, "No, I do not." And others, Jen, there's Jen, OMG, yes, all the time. Scott Rose, nope. And you get Bill, better question. Do your clients use Airtable AI in ways that would not even know or recognize as AI? Justin, no. Can't yet. I would guess probably not. Each person's needs. So some people can. It is out there. It's available to everyone now. It's public, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still haven't used it. I just haven't had a good use case for it. But I think from what I've seen, the thing I'm most interested in trying out is there's an automation step that you can use that'll you can feed the automation step to prompt and it'll return whatever it comes back with. And I think that might be interesting for lots of reasons.
Yep. Yeah, I know Marcus has used it. He's going to showcase how he's used it. So we've got a mix. I use it. I want to use it more, but I definitely use it in some aspects. Okay, next one. Okay, Ben says, it seems like a new record being created in a sync table does not count as base activity. The series of bases that push sinks down the chain, but some of the bases in the middle are not pushing their sinks. and new records down to the next layer of bases until I open them up manually. How is a new record popping into a sync table different from the old useless automation trick to force base activity?
This I would have to test. I am unaware of this limitation. It seems odd.
I'd be curious to know how many chain links he has of sync tables.
I do know Airtable is like pretty adamant about it should always be A to B and stop there, and not A to B, then B to C, etc. Because a lot of their sync features are unavailable on syncs of syncs. So that's something to keep in mind. But he says that he can create a new record, which means I think he's in the A to B to C scenario. I think he's talking about B. So that should be fine. It shouldn't necessarily prevent him from making edits or adding new records. It's weird that it's not counted as base activity. I feel like it should, because when you delete a record from a downstream sync, it shows up in the trash of both the original and the synced table, a synced base, and you can restore from either. So why wouldn't creating a new record in the synced base count as activity in that base? I don't know.
Yeah.
So he's referring to actually going in the like newish feature where you can go into a synced table and create a new record there.
That's what I'm referring to. When you can add or delete records from a downstream sync, and deleting shows up in the synced base's trash. So I would expect to see adding a record in a downstream sync for that to count as activity for that base. It sounds like it's not. I feel like it should.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the question is it never, or is it just sometimes not pushing?
Yeah.
Yeah, not sure, Ben. Let us know. But yeah, for sure, the more syncs you have, I still have this desire to create an experiment where like everybody in the community shares a link and see how many chains we can create.
Yeah, there are some weirdness around syncing, or is some weirdness. There's a couple things I've noticed. Like if you have two sources being synced into the same place, that the syncs don't happen at the same time. Like they might want the one source might update and then the next source might update on a different schedule. So that's definitely something to consider too. I mean, not to do with this issue in particular, but
yeah. But yeah, definitely something to be aware of as you architect multi-base syncing. Okay, one more. This one just came in this morning. Brian Scott. Appreciate this. I was messing around with the metadata extension. It's very handy, but missing two key elements. It didn't indicate when fields were deleted, and it didn't provide the actual formula for formula fields. My guess is because it was built before they exposed the formulas. Yeah. And it uses the field IDs, and he wanted field names. So he made a script and shared it with the community. So if you're interested in just kind of seeing all the metadata of your base, just copy the script, put it into a scripting extension, and see what it runs. I looked at it. I don't think there's anything nefarious in here. I think it's doing what he says it's doing.
awesome.
Gotta be careful. Don't want to just throw scripts in there that may send all your data somewhere externally.
Yeah, this is something I do pretty often in large bases. I have my own script that writes all the fields and tables to tables of fields and tables, if that makes any sense. And then it does a check to see if any have been deleted as well and marks them as having been deleted on that table, which is nice.
Yep. Very cool. So yeah, if that's of interest, that link will be there. And that concludes our community updates around the bases. We'll see. We always, right when we go off for a month, there's usually big announcements. So probably tomorrow there might be some big news. Okay, with that, onto our backups. If you are relying on Airtable for your business, follow best practice. Make sure your data is backed up outside of Airtable. That's where OnToWare Backups comes up. And we back up your data, your meta information, all your attachments securely into your own environment on Box, Dropbox, or Google Drive. And you can set up a schedule so it runs, and you can have peace of mind that your data is secure outside of Airtable. So check it out, OnToWare Backups. You can use promo code BuiltOnAir for a discount, and that will get you in. With that, let's learn about Marcus. I'm going to put you on the big screen. Oh, there we go.
All right. Hey, y'all.
Hello.
First of all, you'll have to excuse me. I'm getting over a cold, so my voice is a little raspy. And second, I have a bit of a speech impediment, so I talk a little slower than some other folks. So thank you for your patience, and I'm excited to tell you more about who I am. So my Airtable journey started back maybe 5 years ago ish. I've worked in a lot of different roles, primarily in marketing roles. I have a background in film and animation, and I really just like making things. And in most of my jobs, I usually was doing a lot of things in the background. So I used to publish the videos for about a dozen of Disney's YouTube channels. I've done social media work for Taco Bell, but one of my biggest passions is gaming, and I had the opportunity to have various roles at Blizzard Entertainment, primarily working in esports at Call of Duty League, Overwatch League, and served doing some website stuff, but also primarily as a digital asset manager. And the through line at all of these jobs was I was hired to do one thing, but I would see gaps in their processes, and they would really frustrate me because it made my life hard. And so I would spend extra time on top of my actual job just trying to do documentation or build processes that ultimately just made my job easier, but as a result, it made everyone's jobs easier. And that's also where I first started using Airtable 2. It was used by our video production team, and they were using it to track all of their video projects. And we had dozens of pieces of content that were being created and published every week, and Airtable was used to manage a lot of that process. And that was really where I first got to see it. And then it would be a couple years later when I was working at Airbnb, where I actually was using Airtable in a more formalized role. And so Airtable is really core to the Airbnb, marketing function. And I really got my chops there. I loved it so much. I'm a very creative person, but I also really like order and structure, which speaks to my background as a digital asset manager, where I was organizing files, and Airtable provided a way for me to organize data while also be very creative. So after my time at Airbnb, I was looking for my next role as a digital asset manager, and things weren't really turning up. And at that point, I wondered, like, I really like Airtable. I wonder if I should pursue that. And I felt like I wasn't the biggest expert, but I really liked it, and I was learning it quickly, and I enjoyed it. So I sort of made that pivot, and around that time, I think I actually reached out to both Camille and Ali on LinkedIn. um, I found this podcast. I joined this community, and I really found my home amongst you fellow Airtable nerds, and that started my journey and encouraged me to really pursue Airtable more as a career. And so, first of all, I just want to say thank you, because I wouldn't be here today without any of you. And this podcast has really, been something that I've been tuned in for the last couple of years, and it's been a big part of my journey. So it's been great just to get to tune in and now to even be here. And so now I work full time as an Airtable engineer. Technically, my title is a senior business operations manager for a design agency, and we do Airtable builds for a lot of enterprise partners, and just working on their workflows and bringing all of their stuff into Airtable, and actually making processes that work really, really well. But beyond my day job, I'm also a consultant, and going back to my love of gaming. Um, in my day job, I don't get to choose who I get to work with, but with my own consulting practice, I am helping video game studios, particularly indie developers, helping them run efficient studios using no-code tools, and um, helping them stay afloat and make really cool games with their limited resources. So, that's my passion. I love Airtable. I use other tools too, um, but that's what I do, and that's how I got here.
Awesome.
Okay, several things. One, I like to joke that I'm a terrible influence and you're ruining my street cred. Two, it's so cool that you get to have a little bit of that balance of you have your sort of main role working with a particular set of people and building those tools there, but having your own practice allows you to really focus in on that sort of niche market that really speaks to your personal interests. And I can see how if you're an indie game developer, right, you're knee deep in code all the time, I'm sure, and depending on the type of game and the developer, you might be also designing the assets and doing the backgrounds and whatnot. And I don't understand how some studios are one person and they do all of that to create a game and then launch the game and then all of the things that go into making a business. And it makes perfect sense that they would be aided by no code and low code tools.
Yes, I think every video game that comes out is a miracle. It doesn't make sense. I don't know how they exist. There's so many parts, coming from animation. I know how painstaking animation is and how much goes into that. And then video games, it's like everything that goes into film, that goes into animation, that goes into writing, but then also there's software development tool too, and then there's support, and then there's all of these things. Like every video game is truly a miracle. And I think when you have such a passionate group of people who are trying to make good things, I think they can get bogged down by all the operational tasks, and that's where I try to come in and try to offset that, so that they can focus on actually just making really fun and provocative experiences.
So cool.
Very
Do
cool.
we want to discuss your lower third? Anti-productivity pirate.
Yes. I think what that means to me is, kind of going along with what I was just saying. I think people work way too damn much. And we, especially us in the US, have a really toxic relationship to work, and most of that is not our fault. We all have bills, and we have to keep the lights on. But through my work and through my business, I want to be able to give people time back, not to be more not to be more productive or to maximize all of their time, and fill all of their free time with doing more work, but actually I'm taking that time to be more human, to be more creative, to go outside, to spend time with loved ones, getting inspiration, resting, doing nothing. So I like to say that I don't want to help people be more productive. I want to help people be more human. And so if I can do that through the things that I'm able to build, then that's my contribution to this world.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Very cool. It looks like you're a musician as well in the background.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, I've been playing music since I was 8 years old. That's that orange bass. I've had that since I was like 14. Um, that that guitar with that metal piece, I got that in college. And yeah, music, games, and food. Those are three of my favorite things.
All right. Get off the computer and go be human, like you said.
We
Love
have
it.
about 27 more minutes of podcast, though. So before we get off our computers, Marcus, would you like to show us something?
Sure. Yeah.
Let me switch us back. Okay. Yeah, you're Marcus gonna walk us through some AI functionality. If you want to get your screen ready, I will move it there.
All right. I think we're good. We're good to go.
Okay.
So what we're looking at here is an applicant tracking system, and kind of going on with our theme of being more human. Dan and I both attended that AI accelerator event. Dan went to the one on the East Coast. I went to the one here on the West Coast. But we both kind of experienced the same thing. So it was my first real time seeing kind of the capabilities of what AI can do. And I am not an AI advocate, not necessarily. I'm more on the skeptical side. I'm more Bill French when it comes to my thoughts. And so when I had this opportunity to try out these tools, I was interested in exploring what can AI look like that is helping humanity versus just taking over an aspect of a people's jobs, or being used to kind of take the humanity out of the job force, which is getting increasingly more bleak. So
I'll be the first. I'll be the one to say it. I don't think it was coincidence Bill French's name was mentioned here with Gordon Ramsay on the screen.
yeah, I think there's definitely some similarities there. So I think what I wanted to build was an applicant tracking system where we're all used to these things going through resumes and like finding people who they can reject. I wanted to turn that on its head and see if I could build something that that uses AI to like make recommendations of why someone might still be a good candidate, even if their resume doesn't match up 1-to-1 with the job requirements. So it's a very simple base. We have the applicant has their resume and the position that they applied for. First of all of these resumes are generated with AI fields within Airtable, and then at the bottom, this is an AI field that looks at all of the applicants' submission, and it gives a recommendation of how well they match to the job skills. So Gordon Ramsay applied for head chef. It's giving us a 5 on all of these different skills. It is rating things out of 5, and it's giving an analysis if this candidate seems like a good fit. So Gordon is a well-known chef, and so this is a great fit. So this is matching up pretty well. But let's check out some other candidates here. We have this gentleman named Wade. I think our 90s kids might recognize who this person is. He has a BS in computer science, and he's a DevOps engineer for a redacted client. I wonder who that could be. And he's been a security engineer and a stage technician applying for a software engineer job. The AI gave him a 4 in terms of the overall analysis of his identified skills and then the required skills for this job. And then it gives some recommendations of why Wade would still be a good fit. Now let's look at we have some other folks here too. We have Janine Teagues. She appears to be a teacher, and she's applying for an HR coordinator position. We don't actually yet have an analysis for this role, so let's use the AI to generate that right now.
Marcus, can you zoom in a little bit while we wait for the
Of
generation?
course.
Thank you.
So it's doing its thing. It's an AI field. While it does that, we can look at the backend. It's a very simple table. But we can see that we have these AI fields here, and they are filled. They require us to input prompts, which is consistent with Chat GPT and all of that fun stuff. If you look at these prompts, you can write a prompt and insert field names to dictate what the output is going to be. And so I've input for the work experience that makes the resume. I said, you are a seasoned resume writer. Please generate a resume for the applicant using their job experience as the job entries. Each job should be populated with 3 to 5 bullets and based on their education and experience, include a skills section, and blah, blah, blah. And that gave us, all of these outputs. Now, in my theme of wanting to create a more human ATS, I challenged myself to give a more of a poetic prompt for my analysis and trying to treat the AI like an actual human. So this one says, you are an HR director who has successfully placed thousands of qualified candidates in jobs during your 20-plus year career. You are aware that traditional hiring practices are rife with biases and want to make sure all candidates are given a fair chance at being selected for the position. So I feed it all of the information. I tell it to compare the self-identified skills with the required skills and to list any matches with a rating of 1 to 5, then analyze their work experience, education, and their skills to identify any ways that the applicant's experience would still benefit the company. Provide a 3 to 5 bullet point summary of your analysis. The analysis should be affirmative. Do not focus on the way the candidate is a bad fit. Instead, focus on the ways the candidate's unique experience will add value despite not meeting all the job requirements. So that was the prompt that I fed it. And let's see how it did for our applicant. So overall, we got a 5, 5, and 4. That is pretty strong. And it gives us reasons why this candidate could still be a good fit. So Janine's experience has equipped her with exceptional skills in curriculum development, yada, yada, yada. But let's maybe take a look at some that are less one-to-one. So we have this peculiar looking applicant here. His name's Buddy. And first of all, we don't even have any work experience yet. So let's see if we can generate this. Go generate. It's gonna use his job history as an emotional support animal and use that to make a resume. Cool. So now we have the generated resume here. And now I use that field to generate this formatted list. I can show that if we have time. But let's give him a job. So how about point guard? I think some 90s kids might also know where this is going as well, but let's see if their skills of napping, licking faces, playing fetch, and being reliable. Let's see how the AI thinks of the skills and if it would be a good fit.
This has to be the funniest setup for a segment I've seen in a while.
Thank you. While that's going, I want to show you my favorite. I'm a big, we're big SpongeBob fans here. He's applied for the head chef. Let's see how he does in comparison to Gordon Ramsay, who also applied for the same position. So while that's being done, let's see if Buddy's finished. Okay, great. So this is a 3 out of 5. This is the lowest that we've seen. It compared reliability with the delegating skill. While not a direct match in terms of task execution, reliability is crucial in ensuring that delegated tasks are completed effectively and on time. Okay, cool. We're I think this candidate is not necessarily out of the, running yet. There might be some things. But let's look at, other things that might make him a good basketball player. He has enhanced team morale, promotion of a healthy, active lifestyle. He has exceptional social and emotional skills. That's huge. He's a role model for discipline and good behavior. And finally, uh, he has adaptability in public interaction. So in conclusion, while Buddy may not have conventional qualifications for the role of a point guard, his unique skills and experiences provide substantial indirect benefits that could enrich the team's dynamics and overall performance. All right. So, I mean, there you will have it. I think we live in a world where the job market is so tough, and these systems traditionally are used to exclude people, but a lot of us wouldn't be here because no one studied Airtable. A lot of us just kind of fell into this, and I think sometimes all people need is a chance. So what if we lived in a world where our HR tools were actually used for helping people instead of just treating them like throw away names. So yeah, this is what I wanted to share as an example of how AI can be used to foster a better sense of humanity.
Awesome. What if you could like combine the names of those two in some way to come up with something? Is it possible? Airtable and Buddy.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I wonder if there could be something that we could do. Airbud seems a little played out, but I'll keep thinking of some ideas.
Very cool. I just kept thinking like there's probably, I'm not big in the hiring world, but there's probably software that does exactly like what you've done that costs thousands of dollars that you just built in, minutes or hours.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
And there's one last thing I want to show really, really quick.
Yep.
It's just this simple automation. When you look at the output of these AI fields, you might have seen it earlier if you were paying attention, but the output comes in as Markdown. And so I just have a simple automation that just copies and pastes the output into a different text box, just so it comes out with all the headers and all of the formatting. And so it would be amazing if Airtable someday had their AI fields that the output could actually, look like the output, but in the absence of doing that, you can still make these formatted outputs very easily through a simple automation.
That's very handy. Yeah, you would think that the AI field would have a toggle for Markdown output.
Yeah, I'd like that for regular formulas as well. If I have a formula that outputs things in Markdown, having it like display as formatted or whatever, that'd be pretty helpful too.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Awesome, Marcus. Thank you for sharing this. Very cool. And where can people find you?
You can find me, I guess, professionally on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/Marcus Multimedia. And if you want to chat about the kind of work that I can help you with, you can go to anchored.digital.
Very good. Melanie says, amazing presentation.
Thank you, Melanie.
That was great.
I'm going to be saying there's nothing in the rule book all day.
Yes.
All right. Real quick shout out. If you haven't joined the community, with just like Marcus was mentioning, an amazing community of people like-minded Airtable nerds, as Marcus called us, join us, builtonair.com/join. We'll get you in the community, and a Slack community of thousands of Airtable users and fans. Also a newsletter that we recently rebuilt. I'll give a quick highlight on that. Here's the one that went out recently. We're doing a lot to help you stay up to speed on everything in the Airtable and no code, low code world to stay fresh, to help you in your professional life. And with that, let's finish off with Ali. Going to answer an audience question for us.
Awesome.
There you go.
Wonderful. All right. So this is something I swear I did a segment similar to this a while back, but I could not find it again. So I think it's worth reiterating. This person is asking, basically the root of their question is how to get a running total or a cumulative balance over time in Airtable. And they're saying in Excel, you can do this easily with a formula, referring to a previous row or previous record, which unfortunately the concept of a previous record doesn't really exist in a database. You could sort and filter records by any which way. So it's not possible to rely on Airtable to know which record came previous, but there are ways that you can kind of fudge this and bend Airtable to your will to get the results that you need. So I'm just going to go over a relatively simple way to get this data. So how to find the balance over time out of different records that came before it. So in my base, I just took their data and put it in a new table. I did kind of condense, they had income and spending in two different fields, but I put it into one just to make this easier. And then depending on whether it's income or an expense, I have a formula that's calculating whether that should be a positive or negative number. So basically, the way that I would go about doing something like this is if we add a linked record field and we're going to do a self-linked field. So we're linking from the transactions table to the transactions table. And I would call this previous transactions. And basically what you need to make this work is a field that you can use to indicate the order in which your records fall. You could do this using a date time field, or you could have a transaction number like what they have in their example data here. Either would work. There are some things you might need to tweak if you've got it based on a date, especially if you have multiple transactions falling on the same date, that can come into play. We're going to keep it really simple for the sake of time here and just say we have a number field for each transaction. So we're numbering them in order, which one came after the next. I also want to build an automation, and I'm going to have a single select trigger the automation. Otherwise, if say you just said, okay, as soon as I have a number, go find all the previous records. If your number is more than one digit, then this is going to cause issues because the automation would start running as soon as you type in one digit into this field. So I like to have a single select that
We lost her.
The suspense.
You cut out a little, Allie.
Oh no.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So all I was saying is that I rely on the single select field rather than saying if the number is not empty to start an automation, because it's going to start as soon as you enter in any number. And if you're trying to write in 15, for example, it's going to think that's a 1 by the time the automation starts. So I like to enter my data, and then I'll set this single select to, okay, I'm ready to link this record to all the previous ones, and that will trigger my automation. So I'm going to set up an automation, and I'm going to say I have a number, and link to previous is link to previous. Now, you could potentially do this with a find record step, but you're only going to be able to find 100 records with that step. So unfortunately, I would say running a script is safer in this scenario. So I'm going to write a very, very quick script. I'm going to input the record ID of the record that's triggering this automation. And I'm also going to input the number of this of the record that is triggering the automation as well. I'm just going to say let table transactions equal this, and I'm going to define the field for my number field. As well as my previous transactions. Then I'm going to just select all of the transactions. And to keep it running really fast, I'm only going to select that number field when I suck up everything. And then I want to filter it. So we want to filter this where the value of that number is less than or equal to, oh, and I need to actually have my input config. So then I can just say config.number. That's a claimed word in JavaScript, so I can't do that. I'm going to call this transaction number. Then I'm going to console log it just so I can, in the future, if I need to review it, I can review it in my console. And then I'm going to just update that record that triggered the automation. And I'm going to put the filtered result into the linked record field. So if we test this, that worked, and it just found 1. We'll quickly run it for all 5 of those records. And as that is going, you can see it's going to go and find all of the previous records, including itself, right? So Apple is linked to Apple, banana is also linked to banana and Apple, etc. So there's kind of this waterfall effect. And now if I roll up from my previous transactions field, if I roll up that gross amount, this should give me the running balance. So just to inspect that really quickly, we have $10 as income, the balance is 10. We add 20, the balance is now 30. We subtract 15, our balance is 15. We subtract 5, our balance is 10, and then we subtract 10 and our balance is 0. So over time, this field will show the cumulative total across all the records that came previously. And it can also make for a pretty cool chart, which we don't have time to look at now, but using this as your summary field, we'll be able to show over time, like in a nice line chart, like what your running total was.
Very, very useful trick.
That was awesome.
Yay, thank you. I use it a lot, actually. Typically, I don't use it at my transaction level. I link each transaction to a month, and then I do it at the month level where I've got all the months linked to the previous months.
Mm-hmm.
But you could do it at any level, really.
Yeah.
I think it was also just cool just watching you code, just write a script from scratch and it working flawlessly on the first go. That's impressive. That was awesome.
Long-standing viewers will notice the difference in between mine and Allie's demos, and that I will never show you what it looks like while I script. I will only show you the end result.
Same. I don't have that amount of courage.
It's a script I've written many times before, so I cheated a little bit. I've got it kind of tucked away.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie, for sharing. And that concludes our show for today, as well as for our season. So we will take off the month of June. Hopefully everybody has a great month, and we'll be back with us in July. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.